All right, hello everyone. Today I wanted to talk about power. and We talked a little bit about set design and audio choices, but playing live power is a big deal. So today I want to talk a little bit about how we manage all our power supplies. So as you can see here, I've got set up ready for an experimental set. I've got a couple of modular cases, Octatrack, a looper pedal, the analog heat, some Cosmos, and a reverb pedal. And if we add this up, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different power supplies. And that's 7 power supplies that we need to take from our studio, pack up in our case, take to the gig, find somewhere to plug in, and then actually plug in and set up. So I was really looking for ways to streamline that, both to reduce the amount of stuff that I need to take to the gig, make it easier to set up, and reduce some of the weight that's in the bag, because I live on the 5th floor with no elevator, which is a good incentive to reduce that weight. So today I'm going to talk about a pretty interesting solution for that, which is this box here, the Cioks DC link. This one is for pedals. This has 5 outputs, and then also have this one, the DC7, which has 7 outputs. And one of the really nice things is this can do 9 volt, 12 volt, 15 volt, and 18 volt. And that's important because usually modular cases are running at 15 volt. A lot of other gear is at 12 volt. And a lot of guitar pedals, if you're using that kind of thing, or different outboard gear, are running at 9 volt. So one of the really nice things here is that there's one power plug that goes into this, and then I can power up to 7 devices from these things. And it comes with individual cables with different sizes, so we can plug that in. So let's talk a little bit about how that works. So the first thing we need to figure out is what power we actually need. And some manufacturers have that on their websites. So for example, if we go to the Electron website and take a look at that and search for Electron power, we can see we've got 12 volt. We can see the size of the connector we need, and we can see whether it's center positive or center negative. And that's important. We'll come back to that in a moment. And we can do the same thing for IntelliGel with looking at modular cases and what kind of power supplies that they need. And it's not so much the power supply, it's the power plug that we're looking for, as well as the voltage. Those are sort of the 2 critical things. The other part is how much power it's actually drawing, and that's where these little intelligent boxes can be really nice. So once we find out what power we need from the manufacturer, or looking on the back of our power supply if it's not on the manufacturer website, Cioks has this good little guide here that sort of goes through the different sizes. So based on what we looked at for Electron, for example, we know that we've got 5.5 by 2.5 millimeter DC plug that's center positive. So we know we need the green tip one for that. For the IntelliGel, it's 5.5 by 2.1 millimeters, DC plug as well, also center positive. And then pedals are usually the same size, but center negative. So there's a whole range of different connectors that you can get. And then we can just plug those in. So as you can see here, I've got one of these running to the small pallet case with the red tip. I've got another one running to the Octatrack with the green tip. That one actually makes use of the extender. You can get 50 centimeter long extender cables so that you can make sure everything actually connects together. And then also similar cables running into the Cosmos, the Cosmos looper pedal and the Lyra and the Vermona retroverb pedal. One of the good things here, when we see these, when you look at it, you can see these lights. Let me just get the right one here. These lights that are on, this is going to tell you if you're overloading this power supply or this power output rather. And for a couple of high consumption things like this big pallet case in the analog heat, those do consume a lot of power. So for those ones are actually better to use a direct main. Same if you're going to be using a mixer or another really high-powered device. But the other ones are all right. The other thing we can see here with the choosing what voltage is going to go out, we can have 9, 12, 15, or 18 volts. You just have to flip these little switches here to be able to move back and forth between those. So it works really well to be able to streamline. So when we get to the club with this particular setup, I'll need to plug in this unit, I'll need to plug in the analog heat and my palette, and that's it. And this whole pile of cables on the floor, I can leave this at home. And that's really advantageous for a couple of reasons. One, as I mentioned earlier, it's less weight, less things I need to pack, less things we need to set up in the club. And as you can see from here, one thing that's really nice, I can actually leave a lot of these plugged in to the DC7. So that's, it's a small thing, but if you can really minimize how many cables you need to plug in when you're there, how many things you need to unplug, even saving 5 minutes on setup is really helpful, especially when you're crushed for time, because that 5 minutes in setup saved is 5 extra minutes during sound check or prepping your patterns or just taking a break and chatting with your friends, getting ready to play. The other big advantage, one of the really interesting pieces of advice I got from Lady Starlight around playing live, and she gigs a lot, she's playing all the time. And she was really talking about how when she got home from a gig, it was a bit overwhelming having to plug everything back in to be able to start making music again. One of the nice things with this setup, I can have everything ready to go, all my power ready to take to the club, and leave everything else plugged into my power bars here in the studio. So when I get home from the gig, all I need to do is unpack my gear, put it on the table, and the power is already there. Once again, may not sound like a huge thing, but we really want to both minimize the time it takes to set up in the club, but also minimize the time it takes to get back to normal again in your studio, so you can start making music or prepping for your next set, all those kind of things. So I'd really encourage you to take a look at these. There's some I've got 2 here, the DC7 that we've talked most about that I'm using for this setup, and then also the DC5, which doesn't have as broad a range of outputs, kind of more designed for pedals. And I'll be taking this one to Amsterdam because I've got we'll be playing with Hanoi doing vocals. So I've got a separate vocal effects chain with a couple of effects pedals, a compressor, a noise gate, and it'll be nice to power everything from this one power supply. So I don't need to bring multiple power supplies for the pedals. And also it kind of isolates it from everything else. So I'll have the DC7 for my main kit, as well as the DC5 for the pedals. So I hope you found that helpful. It's a really great way to sort of save some of that space. Definitely check out the Cioks website. I'll post a link in the comments below, as well as some of the information on where to actually find out how much power is being drawn. So more power to you, more power to your set, and less cables to bring to the gig. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.